10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast, episode 53. Hey everybody, episode 53 of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson Podcast. My name is Nick Manella. I will be your host for the show. If you're new to the show, what we do is a short and concise jazz lesson every single week, complete with a downloadable PDF. And you can find those PDFs from this episode and all the back episodes at 10minutejazzlesson.com. That's the number 10minutejazzlesson.com. Lots of cool stuff there, so go and check out the site if you haven't already. So let's talk about one of the coolest things on the site, and that is our Inner Circle membership, which gets you a whole bunch of great material, including a transcription and a ready-made vocabulary list every single month. Now, at the end of May, the introductory pricing of $5 a month is going to go away, and the price is actually going to double to $10 a month. So make sure you go and get your subscription before the end of May. If you get in on that $5 level, the price is never going to go up for you. So if you've been on the fence about getting into the Inner Circle, now is the time. Go and get your $5 membership before it goes up to $10. All right, and that Inner Circle membership is going to give you a lot of really cool stuff. It's going to give you a transcription and a ready-made vocabulary list every single month so that you have a bunch of material to practice and a great transcription to learn and, play along with. And really, transcription is the thing that's going to make everybody listening to this podcast better. So by doing that, you support the podcast and you get a bunch of awesome educational material all at the same time. So for a limited time only, $5 a month till the end of May, and then it's going to double up to $10. So make sure you go to the site, click on the Inner Circle tab before the end of this month. All right, let's jump into today's episode. So today we're going to talk about a really important melodic and harmonic device that you can use in tons of different places over traditional jazz tunes and pretty much anything that you're trying to improvise over. So we're going to talk about the Augmented Triad. So it's a very simple concept, but it has really wide-ranging possibilities. And basically what I'm going to do is teach you the theory behind it and give you a few exercises to get your augmented triads down in all 12 keys. All right, so let's first start by talking about what is an augmented triad. Well, we know if we augment something, we're making it bigger or wider. And we know if we diminish something, we're taking away from it. So augmented means basically the opposite of diminished. So we're going to take a major triad. Let's start with a C major triad because that's a really easy one to understand. So the three notes in a C major triad are C, E, and G, correct? All right, so we're going to take the C, E, and G. And what we're going to do is we're going to augment this triad by simply making the 5 a half step higher. So we're sharpening the 5th note of our triad, all right? So that gives us C, E, G sharp. And it provides us with a super interesting sound. That widened interval between the 3rd and the 5th really gives you a very interesting sound. So now what you have is instead of a major third followed by a minor third, which would be, C, E, and G. C to E is a major third, E to G is a minor third. Now we're taking it and we actually have 2 major thirds stacked on top of each other. So C to E is a major third, and then an E to a G sharp is another major third, and it gives us this really cool sound that opens up the triad a little bit more and gives us a very unique kind of sound. So before we go any further, I'm just going to play a C concert augmented arpeggio for you so that you get the sound in your ears. The presence of those major thirds really gives it a very interesting sound. It's very angular and kind of opens up the triad, I feel like. So let's talk about how you can practice these, get them under your fingers on your instrument so that you can ultimately apply them to the tunes that you're playing. So one of the coolest things about these augmented triads is that we really only need to work on them in 4 keys because one key actually covers 3 different triads. So let's think about this in the key of C. So the notes in the C augmented triad, again, are C, E, G sharp, which is also the same as an E augmented triad, which is E, G sharp, C. This is also the same as a G sharp augmented triad, G sharp, C, E, and then we're back to C again. So by practicing these 3 notes, we're in effect practicing 3 different keys. And that's due to the nature, the parallel nature of these major thirds that we have stacked on top of each other, right? They're octatonic, as we like to say, all right? So all we really need to do is practice this in the key of C, the key of C sharp, the key of D, and the key of E flat. And if we're doing it in the right way, by simply practicing those 4, we're practicing all 12 keys. So take a look at your exercise sheet and you'll actually see the exercises that I've drawn out for you. I'm going to play those real quick so you can hear them in action and get the sound of that augmented triad a little bit more in your ears. Here's exercises 1 through 4. So by simply playing those 4 exercises, I'm in effect going through all 12 keys if I pay attention to the chord symbols that I've written for you above each arpeggio. Now, of course, you're going to want to do that in a bunch of different ways. You should practice it ascending, descending, staggered. You should really do it in a bunch of different ways. This one exercise is not going to make you a master of playing the augmented triad. But I think you already know that. You guys have probably been playing jazz for long enough to know that when you're working on one exercise, you've got to take that exercise and kind of flip it, reverse it, play it upside down, play it backwards, forwards, play it at all tempos. That's just part of being a jazz musician. So make sure that you take the exercise that I've presented to you and use it as a base to come up with a bunch of other exercises that you can work on to master this stuff. So let's talk about practical applications. Now, one of the coolest things about the augmented triad is you can put it over any dominant chord. So say that you're playing a 2-5-1. And you come upon the 5 chord and you're looking for a more interesting sound. The augmented triad is a great thing to play over the 5-1. And even if the chord isn't augmented, so say you just have a regular 2-5-1, a D minor 7 to a G7 to a C major 7, the G7 is not notated as augmented in your music. It's still okay to play it augmented. It actually sounds great when you do that. So this is one of those things where you can play a little bit outside of the key that's written and it's not going to really clash with what's happening. And you're going to be playing the triad, so you're going to be very clearly outlining an augmented tonality. And that's really going to take over the listener's ear. So don't be afraid to use this. It's not just something that you can use over augmented chords. And again, if you have a great rhythm section, they're going to kind of catch on to what you're doing. But this is a classic thing to use. You hear it all over, the recordings throughout jazz history. So I would start to, after you learn your augmented triads and you're starting to feel comfortable with them, I would start to insert them over some 2-5-1s. I have provided you with one at the end of the exercise sheet for this week. Check out what it sounds like. Now, the play along is just going to be playing a regular 2-5-1 with no alterations, but I'm going to actually alter it and make the G7 chord into an augmented triad so that you can hear what it sounds like. Here's the 2-5-1 at the end of the exercise sheet. it fits, right? And it gives us a really awesome sound over that 5 chord. So if you're looking for something new to add to your bag of tricks over a 2-5-1 or a 5-1 or whatever, Augmented is a great, great device to use. Spend a little bit of time working on the arpeggios and you'll be using them in no time. All right? If you have any questions, feel free to email me at 10minutejazzlesson@gmail.com. I love hearing questions from you guys. If you have suggestions, things you're wondering about, let me know. We'll definitely do an episode on them. Always looking for feedback from the community out there. So thanks so much for listening, everybody. We definitely couldn't do this without you. Remember, the membership fee for the Inner Circle will be going up at the end of May. So if you want to get in on that $5 level, you'll be at $5 forever. But at the end of May, if you're signing up past June 1st, it's going to be $10 a month from here on out. So go and get your membership today so you don't miss out on that low introductory price. Okay, everybody, we will see you next week with a brand new episode. Have a great one, everyone. Bye.